In the first episode of this series, you saw me do some of this, and some of this, a little bit of this, and more of that, a bit of this, and oh god, this. Melamine. And I got my Womble Wood recycled melamine workshop looking like this. So now, part 2. Although this is a bit of a holdover from part 1, I decided that I needed to put the shelf pins in so I could set the height for my bottom drawers in those cabinets, but also get all the small parts boxes out of the way. So shelf pins it was. When word got around town that I was wombling free melamine, people started to offer me theirs, and I picked up some really interesting pieces and one really historic one from a shop that I used to visit as a kid. If your family had furniture from Martin's, they were seriously loaded. I made some modifications to my end cabinet so I could fit my air compressor and make a shelf for the drill press to sit on.
With the knees, 1, 2.
Although it seems silly, as a 6-foot woodworker who has tech neck, having the drill press up nice and high makes perfect sense to me. I moved on to cutting the pieces of melamine and MDF that I had for my drawers, and at this time I decided to make a decision about the kind of YouTuber I wanted to be, and most of the time I want to be the YouTuber who keeps the guard on their saw, even when they're filming. I know it's not always going to happen, but hey, can't blame someone for being idealistic, can you? I decided it was now time to put the bench top on. I used 19mm structure floor, and it was cheap, so I bought it. I set up some long pieces of scrap underneath the flooring so I could catch the 200mm offcut because I'd need it later. Here I am thinking I'm doing an amazing job of cutting with my track saw. I'm really proud of myself here. And here I am realizing that I haven't cut all the way through. Yay! Where's that offcut going to go? Well, welcome to behind the cabinets. Remember how I said they're only 400mm deep, but there's a 600mm deep plinth? Here's why. Say hello to long length storage and the little shelf that my dust extraction pipe is going to sit on.
So I'm going to try and figure out where the miter saw is going to go, and then I also need to integrate my dust extraction solution before I can fix this in place and then work on that bit over there and the drawers and all that stuff. So as soon as I get this done, then I can put the saw there, then I can do the other stuff. And that goes inside of that one, so some tape in there, and that's going under there.
Eventually I did work it out, and I decided I'd just cut a piece of pipe off rather than make my 5th trip to the hardware store that day. Although I should say hardware shop. Hardware shop. We're in Australia. Hardware shop. I didn't go. This is because originally I was going to mount the pipe right underneath the bench, but then I settled on mounting it on the bottom shelf that I put in earlier. All this because the gutter picked melamine was at a maximum 400mm wide, so I couldn't make cabinets that were any bigger than that. So this has all stemmed from that design constraint, and I've tried to turn it into a positive. Now to refit with ease.
There's a problem.
The top was exactly that much too long, and then you had to undo it all and put it back on again.
The ingenious dust extraction solution fitted flawlessly, and now I had to work on the bench top, which I was not looking forward to doing. I had a fairly good overhang overall, but I did need to make sure the bench top was square, so when I could join up the piece that was going to have a cutout for the drill press to stick through, that it would join together neatly. I decided if I was going to have a terrible overhang, I'd just put the track saw back over it again. So hopefully this would all work. I made some 3D printed shims to go along with my Womble Wood cabinetry skills. Well, limited cabinet skills, and now was the fun time of trying to screw down the top of the bench top so that I could add the cutoff piece. I really wasn't looking forward to this, but my main goal was to just check that that end was square. If that was square, I could probably make do with the rest. This is the point where I tried to be a smartass and used my track saw to cut the straight parts and then my jigsaw to cut the curves. Don't worry, this stage would come back to bite me in the arse later. I used chipboard screws through the top to fix it down to the cabinets. I did put a level across it, but no fancy joinery here, just functional. And then I used my track saw to cut off the remainder to try and have as straight an edge as I could at the front. Here's a progress shot, and a track saw with no dust extraction hooked up makes a crap ton of dust.
All the drawer components cut, neighbours suitably brassed off, but now to drill some pocket holes.
Oh, don't pretend you don't know what that means. You know. While I was assembling the first bank of drawers, it became very apparent to me that I was going to run out of pocket screws, and I live in a place where no one sells pocket screws. In fact, if you go and ask for them at the hardware shop, you will get strange looks. So at this point, because I was assembling the whole drawer carcass with pocket screws, I decided I need to come up with some kind of system where I could save a few on each drawer. And I did. I came up with this system where I saved 2 per drawer. And I was already in a couple of hundred in the whole project.
These are the sides, by the way. So in the sides, tipping it back and forth. And then I'll put one in the center there, and then one in the center there. So that's now only 6.
To be honest, I probably could have done it with one in the center of each side. Here's a progress shot of the first bank of drawers and a pile of crap where the second one's going to be. I honestly thought after my T-stack workbench build that drawer fitting would be a doddle, but drawers that have height are different to just sort of plain flat trays. So this did take me a little bit of finagling, let's say finagling about, but I got there in the end. I cut up some scrap MDF doors for the drawer fronts, fitted them twice, and then invented a game.
Welcome to the Sausage Wood Miter Station in Banana Labs for your favorite game. Guess what's in the drawer?
I added some 3D printed handles, and then I also recorded this message for the person that has kind of inspired this build.
G'day Bo, I was inspired by your junk office video. Get your permission to use a couple of seconds of your junk office video.
He's probably up a mountain or something.